You pull into the service bay because your engine has a little stumble at idle, maybe a light flickered on the dash, and you are already bracing yourself, and then the advisor walks over with that clipboard and that practiced sympathetic face and slides an estimate across the counter, and your stomach just drops because the number staring back at you is $3,500. And it is not for one thing. It is for an entire assembly, a whole module, a complete unit, and he is explaining in that calm corporate voice that these parts come as a sealed package and cannot be serviced individually. And really, for your safety, the whole thing has to come out and go in the trash, and a brand new one has to take its place. And you feel that sick, helpless squeeze in your chest because you absolutely know in your gut, that something here is wrong, that your car does not feel like it has a $3,000 problem, but you are standing in a showroom with marble floors and a coffee machine and a guy holding a scan tool that costs more than your monthly rent. And how on earth are you supposed to argue with that? So you sit in the waiting room and you do the math on your savings and you feel cornered, trapped, lied to, and totally powerless. And that exact feeling is not an accident. It is the product. It is the thing they are actually selling you. And here is what nobody behind that counter will ever tell you. The dirty secret that independent mechanics and fleet garage techs have known for decades, which is that a massive percentage of what dealerships rip out and replace as entire sealed assemblies are not broken at all. They are simply dirty, and the part underneath all that grime is perfectly functional, and a $5 can of the right spray and 20 minutes of your Saturday afternoon will restore it to factory specification. And they know this, and they bank on the fact that you do not. And today I am handing you the list, the real one, the 10 components dealerships love to quote as full replacements that you can actually clean yourself for the price of a fast food meal. And before we go 1 inch further, I need you to do one thing for me, because the dealership networks and the corporate service chains have spent untold millions lobbying against right to repair laws, fighting in state houses to keep service manuals locked away, to keep diagnostic data proprietary, to keep you dependent on their bay and their prices and their schedule. And the single most powerful thing you can do to fight back is to refuse to stay ignorant. So hit that subscribe button right now and join this channel, because we are building an army of owners who know exactly what is under their own hood, and every single subscriber is one more person these service cartels cannot fool. So do it now and let us get into it. And to understand why this works, you have to understand the actual engineering logic the industry deliberately blurs. Because here is the truth about how modern car parts fail. They almost never fail all at once. A sensor does not wake up one morning dead. What actually happens is gradual. A mass airflow sensor accumulates a microscopic film of oil, mist, and dust on its sensing wire over tens of thousands of miles, and that film insulates the wire and throws off its readings by a few percent. And the engine computer, which is constantly trusting that sensor to calculate how much air is entering the engine, starts feeding the wrong amount of fuel, and you get a rough idle and a hesitation and maybe a check engine light, and the dealership reads that code and quotes you a whole new sensor at $300 installed, but the sensor is not broken. It is wearing a coat of grime, and the moment you dissolve that grime off with the correct cleaner, the wire reads perfectly again and the computer recalibrates its fuel trim right back to nominal. And the part that was supposedly garbage is now functioning exactly like the day it left the factory. And this same principle, clean the specific point of contamination instead of replacing the whole expensive housing, applies across the entire vehicle. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And what makes the dealership model so profitable is precisely that it ignores this logic on purpose, because cleaning is cheap labor and replacing is expensive parts, and a service department lives and dies on parts markup. So when you are paying that $150 or $200 an hour labor rate, understand where that money is actually going. It is paying for the showroom, the chandeliers, the corporate licensing fees, the brand certification programs, the loaner cars. Almost none of it is going toward the actual physical act of fixing your vehicle. And in real testing, a sensor cleaned with a $5 can of spray reads identical electrical resistance values to a brand new $300 boxed unit. Identical, which means the markup you are paying buys you exactly zero functional improvement. You are paying $300 for the privilege of throwing away a working part. So let me give you the actual countdown. And number 1 on this list is the one that nails more people than any other, the mass airflow sensor. That little sensor sitting in your intake tube between the air filter and the throttle body. When it gets coded, the symptoms scream expensive problem, rough idle, stalling, hesitation, poor fuel economy, and the dealer quote to replace it runs anywhere from $200 to over $400 at a shop. And I've seen forum posts where an owner was quoted $850 to swap this one tiny part, and the fix is a can of mass airflow sensor cleaner that costs under $15 and usually lasts you several cleanings. And here is the protocol, and the critical warning that comes with it is the single most important thing in this entire video, so do not skip it. You remove the sensor from the intake, and you spray it only and exclusively with cleaner that says mass airflow sensor cleaner on the can. And I am going to say this as loudly as I possibly can. Do not, under any circumstances, use brake cleaner or carburetor cleaner or any household solvent on a mass airflow sensor, because those products are chemically aggressive and they will dissolve the delicate coating right off that hot wire and corrode the element and turn your $15 fix into the $400 replacement you were trying to avoid. The right cleaner is residue-free and evaporates instantly and is specifically formulated to be safe on that fragile electronic element. You hold the sensor over a towel. You give the wire 10 to 15 short bursts from about 4 to 6 inches away. You never touch the wire with the spray straw or anything else because it is so fragile it can snap. You set it down on a clean towel and you let it air dry completely. You do not blow it dry with compressed air. You do not hit it with a hair dryer. You do not wipe it. You let it sit until it is bone dry and then you reinstall it. And that is it. That is the whole job. 20 minutes and a few dollars against a $400 quote. And number 2 on the list is the throttle body, which sits right next to the airflow sensor and collects a ring of tar like carbon deposit around the plate and the bore over time. And that carbon chokes off the precise idle airflow and gives you a high or rough or surging idle and stalling when you come to a stop. And the dealer will quote you throttle body service or even a full replacement, and a replacement can run well over $500. And the cleaning is a sub $20 can of throttle body cleaner. And the protocol here is you use a cleaner specifically labeled for throttle bodies because many modern throttle plates have a special coating that harsh cleaners will strip. You spray it onto a lint-free cloth or a soft nylon brush rather than blasting it straight into the housing, and you gently wipe the carbon off the plate and the beveled edge and especially the back side of the plate where a ring of tar collects. And you never use a wire brush or a scouring pad or anything abrasive because a single scratch in that bore creates a permanent air leak. And here is a key detail nobody warns you about. On a modern drive by wire throttle body, the computer has adapted its idle to the dirty condition. So after you clean it, your idle may surge or run high for a little while as the engine control unit relearns the new airflow. And that is completely normal. Some vehicles need a simple relearn procedure to settle it down, and the dealership will charge you $50 to $150 just to plug in a scanner and reset that adaptation. When on many cars, you can accomplish the relearn by simply letting the car idle through a few warm-up cycles. And number 3 is the engine air filter, which dealers and quick lube chains love to pull out, wave in your face covered in leaves, and upsell as an emergency $40 replacement, when a great many of them simply need to be tapped out or replaced with an $18 part. You install yourself in under 60 seconds with 0 tools. And number 4 is the cabin air filter. The exact same scam in a different location. That filter behind your glove box that they quote at $60 or $70 installed is a $15 part that slides out and slides in by hand in 2 minutes. And number 5 is battery terminal corrosion. When your car cranks slow or throws weird electrical gremlins, the dealer may point at a new battery, or worse, a whole new wiring harness, when very often the actual problem is that fluffy white or blue corrosion built up on the terminal, and the fix is to disconnect the terminals, negative first always, and clean that corrosion off with a cheap wire brush and a little baking soda and water solution, which neutralizes the acid, then reconnect and protect them, pennies against a quoted fortune. And number 6 is your brake caliper slide pins. When you get a pulsing or a sticking brake, the shop may quote whole new calipers at hundreds of dollars each, when frequently the slide pins have just dried out and seized and need cleaning and re-greasing with the correct high-temperature brake grease. And the critical warning on this one is serious. Brakes are a safety system, so if you are not fully confident in reassembling a caliper correctly, you take this one to a trusted independent mechanic, but you now know to ask whether the pins were even checked before you authorize a full caliper replacement. And number 7 is the EGR valve and passages, which gum up with carbon and trigger codes and get quoted as full assembly replacements when many can be removed and cleaned. And number 8 is your engine ground straps. Those unglamorous braided cables that corrode and cause a whole symphony of mysterious electronic faults that send owners down a $1,000 diagnostic rabbit hole when the cure is unbolting, cleaning, and reattaching a ground connection. And number 9 is the PCV valve, a cheap part that gets blamed for expensive symptoms. And number 10 is the entire category of so-called diagnostic packages, the mandatory $150 scan they insist on before they will even look at your car, when a basic code reader you can buy for $20 or borrow free from most parts stores will pull the exact same codes and point you straight at which of these cheap cleanings you actually need. And now here's the one absolute non-negotiable rule that ties this entire list together. Cleaning fixes dirty. Cleaning does not fix broken. These methods restore components that are contaminated. They will not resurrect a part that has suffered genuine internal, mechanical, or electrical failure. So if you clean a sensor and the code comes right back, or if a part fails an actual electrical resistance test, then that part is truly dead and it does need replacement. And the entire point of learning this is not to dodge every repair forever. It is to make sure you never again pay $300 to replace something that a $5 can would have fixed, and to make sure that when you do pay for a real repair, you know it was actually necessary, because that is the whole game. Knowledge is the thing that moves the power from their side of the counter back to yours. So let us put it side by side one last time. On one side, you have the dealership model, the $3,500 sealed assembly quote, the mandatory diagnostic fee, the marble showroom labor rate, the cycle of feeling cornered and helpless every time a light comes on. And on the other side, you have a small shelf in your garage holding a can of mass airflow cleaner, a can of throttle body cleaner, a wire brush, a tube of brake grease, and a $20 code reader, the entire arsenal for less than the cost of a single dealership hour, keeping your car running like the day it was built for literal pocket change. And if this opened your eyes even a little, then do the one thing that actually hurts these service cartels where it counts. Share this video right now with every single person you know who is tired of getting ambushed at the service counter. Send it to the friend who just got quoted a fortune. Send it to your family, because every owner who learns this is one more person they can never corner again. And that is how we win this, one informed driver at a time. Unquote.